Thank you so much. Um, Thank you all for inviting me. I've been here for a week and I'm enjoying myself very much. I am Dutch, as you heard, and yeah, a part what I'm going to talk about is something that we are a little bit known for, and that is provocation. So the Dutch are really good at sort of provoking things. So might be disturbing or like disrupting, but I think like what I always hear from when I'm in America, that people that hear that I'm Dutch, they scream out like, "Oh man, I love the Dutch." And mostly when I ask them why they love the Dutch is because we are direct, we are in your face, and we would always say whatever we have on our mind, sort of. And that makes it really honest. And that is what I myself hear a lot. And that is also what I'm happy to be representing, the provocations. So one of the things that, for example, I want to start with is a collaboration between myself and a car manufacturer. And myself, I am busy with fashion. And it's a little bit fashion with a twist, because I am combining electronics with manufacturing techniques like, for example, 3D printing or sensors. I'm using microcontrollers myself, so all my designs are reactive or interactive. And this is of the likes, for example, of some of my clients. For example, the car brand Audi, which you can see here. And when I started this project with Audi in 2015, I was looking at the car industry and also at the way cars get presented, but also girls get presented with cars. A lot of the things that you see at car venues, at the bigger car shows, is still the notion that a girl is being sold with a car. So you're looking at a car and a girl is sort of tigering over that. And that is something that we with Audi disagree to, sort of. And what we try to create with this collection were a sort of a powerful look, both in the garments itself, inspired by the cars, as also the presentation itself, because the girls were there not necessarily to be sexy or anything like that. Their silhouettes are very strong and very powerful. And that is something that I want to show you here. For example, this is a dress based on 60-watt high power LED that is blasting out as soon as you come near. And it's at the moment at Impression 3D Lucine du Futur. I'm not that good at French, but it's in Paris at the moment. But it's part of a collection. This is another thing that I did last night and the night before. We're presenting at this moment, at this time, actually a 10-piece collection in the end. So this is at the moment being shown by models in China. And again, a really powerful silhouette to just give another notion on like how we preserve certain ideas. One of the designs is, for example, if you're talking about interaction, a design which is bursting out of its shape as soon as you come close. So here you can see a render which I created in where 12 motors are being stirred, and basically the design is splitting out of its shape, and the lines is shining through. So I'm using both, I'm both busy with things like leather, so I'm sewing, I'm soldering, so I'm doing things with electronics, I'm soldering microcontrollers, I'm working with wires. I'm also doing digital things, so especially presentations to your clients, or if you're collaborating, this is really important for me. So I use software like, for example, Maya from Autodesk, like rendering programs, and I do a lot with software in order to get my digital design out there. This is another project that we did for Audi, in which we use projection mapping. So here you can see a dress that is being projection mapped over. So it's a dress that is on the show itself. So here you see us testing it out. It was changing its shape and changing its attitudes during the show. You can yourself see the show online that we did, because I'm going to go also into some of the other projects. So one thing is that, of course, I like the cars of Audi very much. Another thing is that I like things that are not cars, and those are animals. So I do myself a lot with biomimicry. So this is, for example, an octopus. And animals are really cool. Like, for example, if you look at octopuses, not only just the aesthetic, like of how animals move and how they live, sort of. Also, I like to look at their defense mechanisms and how the defense mechanisms of animals are so different than we have as humans, for example. If you come into the personal space of an animal, if I interact with a cat, for example, a cat would always give me a claw as soon as you come close by. And that's really interesting, because if somebody's too close in my personal space, or I am in somebody's personal space too close, too nearby, I would never really say it, because we are being taught to not say. We are being taught to feel more discomfort instead of then standing up for ourselves. And that is really interesting. So I like to look at these animals, how they behave. And I try to put that in my fashion, because fashion I see as expression. Fashion I see as a method for communication. And that is what we do with garments. Like what I'm wearing now is not really necessarily communicating something about myself. It's maybe more about comfort. We call that clothing. So garments and fashion I see as something different, sort of like the really extravagant things of, for example, Alexander McQueen is saying something about his emotion. He's directing something about the expression that he tries to build, for example, regarding to the things that he's creating. And with him and me, a lot of other sort of so this is one of the dresses that I created based on this idea of the octopus. It's a smoke dress, so it has a smoke system within the design, and it starts to smoke as soon as you come near. And the closer you come to this dress, the more smoke it's producing. So it's putting up a smoke facade, sort of, in almost the notion of being shy, like feeling shy and disappearing and moving away, and yeah, sort of facading yourself behind this layer of smoke. This is, for example, a prototype. So what I do is I built a prototype. Here you can see still the tube, sort of. You see the LEDs are not really necessarily being integrated, but I'm making it. I make a movie of it. I see how it moves in the space. I see how it does, and then I go into another notion of it. I make for example, a version 2, a version 3. So these designs are living with me, and that's a really interesting notion regarding to how we see fashion, which is rapidly changing every half a year, every 2 months, every week, sort of, you know. And then this new field of wearables and wearable electronics and interactive garments that are not being in or out, but they live with you. That's a really interesting notion of how you need to think of these new beings, sort of like these garments that are almost like your leather dress, moving with you, you know, moving with you through your life and being updated and upgraded. Because my dresses are not in and out, they will always be iconic. They will always be like getting updated and upgraded as I move through this world, as the technology gets smaller, or as I discover a new kind of electronics that I can put towards my designs. So that's for me a really interesting thing to think about, like how will fashion and how will the world of technology and fashion collide eventually? Because at this moment there's still a pretty big bridge in many things. So one thing is, that's I update these designs. For example, the smoke dress that you saw, it was not integrated, so the smoke was being put out. So in this version that I created in collaboration with architect Nicolo Cassas, we were we were researching the idea of how this smoke could be integrated within the dress and then being pushed out into the space. So we created a sort of a ball shape in the hips. So now the system is, I created the system to be in the dress, going to the hips, and this ball shape that you can see is actually making space for the smoke to turn and then to be pushed out, really creating a sort of cloud of smoke around her hips. We use TPU, so this is a thermoplastic polyurethane, which is a flexible print, which is pretty cool. Of course, we still having to do with fashion and technology, like 3D printing and fashion. It seems all very cool, but we still have to do with putting plastic on our bodies. But by the use of, like, for example, elastomers, it's better to make it, for example, more comfortable and more flexible. But that's another thing that we are looking into. Better ways of producing these garments. If you're producing things digital, you want them to feel comfortable. And like, what other materials are there than only the plastics that we're using? How can things be more flexible? How can they maybe breathe? How can they be more natural? So the technique that I'm using is what you can see here. It's actually, I call it 3D printing, but it's not. It's selective laser sintering. So what you can see here is it's a big box of polyamide powder, and it's a CO2 laser beam. And basically my file, my STL file, so that's the file like that you design, you put it in any format. I print it always in STL. I send it out to the printer, and instead of building it up from the ground up, it's actually with a CO2 laser beam, it's materializing it out. So basically my shape, I take it out of the box and all the powder falls off, and I just have my shape without any support material. And I hope I explained that good, but it's a really good technique for creating like difficult geometries. So this is the final of the dress, the smoke dress. I created that for another car company. It's called Volkswagen, and by producing the spaces in the hip, sort of, it allowed the smoke to be much more integrated within the design. So here you can see the back piece with the system. It's going to the front, and there it's being pushed out. The sensors are in the front part. So as soon as you approach this dress, it starts to smoke. So that's a really, an interesting idea of seeing fashion, seeing how fashion can interact. Instead of the dress that you're putting on in the morning, for example, is that the same emotion that you feel at the end of the day, or can things move with you? And also, how can you integrate emotions and your own emotional state within these garments, for example? So the next project that I'm going to show you was also a start a little bit of this idea of like how we perceive fashion and how fashion is perceiving us. So basically what you have around your body are these spaces: your intimate space, your personal space, your social space, and your public space. So whether, for example, the smoke dress is more playing with the idea of intimate or the personal, the next project has to do with the social as well. And it's a project that I actually created with one of the guests here. Her name is Jane Tingli, and her lovely husband, Marius Kintel. And we were in Vienna. We were in Vienna in 2009, and we got invited to an artist in residency. Artists in residencies are really cool because it allows crazy people like me and Jane to get to a place and to experience a city, but also to think of other ways that we could create art or that we can work with technology. And by that, really doing something with the cultural purpose of the city and creating something for the city. At that time, there was a festival in town when I met Jane and Marius, and it was called Robo Exotica. It's a festival for cocktail-making robots, and it's really, really cool. So if you get a chance, it's in December every year in Vienna. Please go there. And we heard about this festival. It's called like Robo Exotica. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create a robotic cocktail making dress. So other than the solid standing cocktail makers that were being presented there, we had the idea of creating a dress that would be able to make a cocktail and also serve you a cocktail. So basically what we did, we went to the, you can say, Home Depot. We just took everything that we could find to create this as a prototype again. So here you can see Carmen wearing the dress. So you see a lot of cables. You see the sensors. She had 4 sensors in her neck part, and it's all a little bit bulky, sort of. But this is something that we, again, we made it as a prototype because we wanted to test it out. Your prototype, your first prototype, doesn't need to be fully aesthetically. It needs to work. It needs to give us feedback on what it does, sort of. And it ended to be this, really cool futuristic design, which you can see here. So this is at Robo Exotica, and one of the people there was testing out the system. She had a game of Truth or Dare on her wrist, and she was inviting the people to play the game of Truth or Dare. And the people needed to play this game in order to get a drink from her. But it was really funny, because what me and Marius and Jane were figuring out the days before were all these funny questions that we could put in the system and that we could let the people do, sort of, you know, because one of these questions was like bark like a dog, another was like roll over the floor. But for you, by interacting with the system, you say yes to the system. So any question that the system is asking you, you're of course doing, because otherwise you're a pussy. So that was really cool, and that was really opening up this really funny environment. Like, this was Robo Exotica, but we also got invited, for example, to Electra Festival, which was like in Montreal. It was a little bit more sort of a high-class event, which we created this dress for, and it was a little bit more a little bit less casual. So if there would be a person in a suit or in something like that, still the person would always do and roll over the floor and run around or ask questions to other people. And that was really cool, talking about this social notion that this dress was doing. Sort of, it really opened up this notion of communication. Whenever she walked in, of course she was gorgeous. Of course there was a lot of things going on, but she was also provoking, the visitors to be integrated in this game sort of. So yeah, it's a project really, really close to my heart. This is Lara presenting it. And so this is the front and the back of the dress. Again, this is an update. So as I talked before about upgrades and updates, these dresses live with you. And as soon as you can work on it, you do. And as soon as you find new kinds of electronics or things that you can integrate, you do so. So this is a really stylized image, and it's like, okay, you just you do this, and it's existing sort of. This is actually how producing looks like. So it's messy. It's like a lot of hard work. It's a lot of coffee. It's a lot of late nights. You see here, Marias was programming. I was sewing. Jane was like making all these crazy things from dragon skin, which is a silicone, and we were just like working around, trying to find out how these shapes should look like and how we could build this sort of. So again, like building is messy, and then you create the end thing that everybody is seeing. So that was a really fun project. Here you can see Lara in Vienna. So this project has been like invited to a lot of places. Here it was in Vienna at the opening of an exhibition there called Techno Sensual, and she was serving a drink. So for my visit here to Digifest, I actually had the possibility to take one of the pieces that we created for Cirque du Soleil at Heart Ibiza in Ibiza. It's a black version of the dress, and it's being worn by Kenna. So if I can invite you on the stage. So she's wearing here the dress that we actually showcased yesterday at the Umbra store. I don't know how many people were there. Can I see hands? Yeah? Amazing, yeah. It was an amazing opening. I don't know if you guys know the store. It's a design store in Toronto, and I really loved it. Especially they had, like, I'm wearing all these crazy rings, and they had a thing for that, you know. They had a little piler that you could place your rings on and just, place it in your house as a sort of an artwork. So, it was really cool. What we also had was this dress being presented by Kenna. And as you can see, it's here big because not everybody's able to see it. She's producing a cocktail right now in front of you. So yesterday we were serving cocktails from her dress in the store. So so she has on her. Thank you so much. We are actually, I have to name. We are serving your national drink because yesterday we were serving gin and tonic. So here we have Canada Dry. I heard it's your national drink, so feel free to take it later on. And that was really fun yesterday. It's really cool for me to see people like me and Jane were there to see people interacting with the system and having a great time. The front piece is inspired by the logo of Heart Ibiza, and you can see that in the front. There, that's where the little cocktail shot is. And on her backside, she has a peristaltic pump, and this is a peristaltic pump by the company Party Robotics, which you can see here. And these are really cool guys. I guess they're in Las Vegas, but I'm not really sure. But they made this open source robotics, a peristaltic pump that people are like using a lot in products. Like everything is open source, so the open source community is of course really cool because we all learn from each other. I'm a big fan of that. And she has the drink in her hip. It goes to the front, and that was sick. Yeah. And then I wanted to thank Amanda Costco of Electric Runway for this amazing photo because we did a presentation and we pushed Kenna in the elevator, and she was just standing with these people, and it's really cool because the first line is looking slightly awkward, like away, and then the people in the back are like sort of like laughing. So this is a really cool photo for me. So thank you, Amanda, and cheers. So yeah, so again, it's a moment of trying to figuring out, try to provocate a little bit, try to see, other than things are being preserved, being presented, being served today, how can you give it a little twist and make somebody's life a little bit more awkward, a little bit more interesting, or how can you see design to have another way of interacting with the world around it. Again, going back to these spaces that we're investigating, it's another project, and it's one of the last projects that I will be presenting. I'm presenting it from the start because it has a history. It grew up. It's a robotic spider dress, and it started in Vienna with one of my friends. He's a software engineer. His name is Daniel Schatzmeier, and there was actually a game. I don't know if you know this game. I think I have it here. It's called Limbo. How many people of you know this game? Amazing. Okay. Wow. Then I don't have to explain how fucking awesome it is. So the other thing is, like, me and my friend Daniel, we had a big project from a car company, and we were relaxing. We were sitting on the couch, and he said to me, like, oh, I have this really cool game because you need to relax. I have this really cool game that you might enjoy. And he put me to the game, and I think I was like just playing it for like the whole day. I was like, this is amazing. One of the most things that I think is amazing about this game is, other than a game that's really overwhelming you, this game was really there to create a certain atmosphere. It's a game that you walk through, just like Mario, sort of. It's black and white, and it's about this little boy that all the time gets in danger. And like you're playing as the boy, and you need to guide him through this world in order to get him out of the danger, sort of. But what interests me most about this game is, first of all, the music. It's composed by a Scandinavian music producer who, I don't know his name of, I guess it's Lars, but every time the boy does something good or not, you are being guided through the game by the music and the sounds that it's making. But in the game, there's also this spider, and as the boy walks up to the spider leg is noticing the boy, and he's walking back and forth. And just the way that people thought of this spider as an entity, and not only the spider, but just these legs, sort of the way you need to play the game to understand, sort of these legs are being sort of provoked and programmed to sense the boy and to just figure out a good way when it actually wants to finish it. That goes too dramatic, but that's inspired actually this dress, which some of you don't know about, but it's good to always have other points of inspiration, and a lot of different kinds of points of inspiration. So what we did was, we had this idea of doing that, so we made a structure with little chords, and we made the notion of this game into a little thing that we produced for Halloween. So it was more, we put it on Facebook for our friends to enjoy. A little funny thing that we have had in mind. So we wanted to see how these legs would move alike these legs in the little video game, sort of. The funny thing is, we produced like a few more movies just to explore this idea. And then the day when we woke up, and I called Daniel up, and I was like, whoa, this thing is going crazy, you know? Like, so there was a lot of people on that YouTube channel where we produced all these little movies. And then we got calls from Prague, from London, from everywhere in the world, like, we want to have this dress. When, like, can you ship it to us? And we were like, we could not tell the people because that would be really silly, like to say, like, we just did it, like with little strings. But instead, we just took the weekend off. Instead of like chilling, we started to build this from a laser cutter that we had at the local hackerspace, and we started to see how these movements could be, which took a little bit longer. It took, I think, 1.5 weeks in total. And then we packed it in, and we went to Prague, we went to London, and we made a promise to all these people that we would go there, sort of. So here you see us being busy at a Saturday night. Daniel totally tired, me sort of barely holding the camera. That we were starting to create this dress. So that's again, that's the fun and failure of these projects. It always looks very sleek, very nice, very well presented, and this is a little bit the things that you're going through. This dress was based on a Teensy, so that was my microcontroller of choice at that moment. And this was the final version.
Now, I don't know about you, but some people really have issues with personal space, right?
Really?
So if you get too close, I would be wearing a dress like this. Take a look. This is a robotic spider dress.
Yep, 6 robotic limbs protrude from a black dress, crawling around your body. There are 6. We know spiders have 8 legs, but it's a dress. Get over it.
Yes, it's a collaboration between fashion designer Anouk Wipprecht and software engineer Daniel Schatzmeier. It's this wearable dress that's equipped with sensors that interact with the people around you. If they get too close, those legs will come out and just push them away.
Yeah, so it's not just weird legs moving around randomly, like if you strapped a giant 6-legged spider to your back.
Hey, I would love to wear that dress at a bar.
Yeah, I don't know how that would go over for you, because the people who would come up to talk to you might not be the people that you're most excited to talk to back. I mean,
Right.
you might really need it for the personal space thing.
No, exactly. It would be fun.
So that was, you know, the sun. And I always love it, like when people talk about it, especially, yeah. I think this was National Geographic. I guess it was Canada, but I'm not sure if that's true. But last year I got the opportunity to work with Intel, and they had this thing called an Intel Edison. It was their new microcontroller, and it was coined at the wearables market, sort of. And like they asked me to make a design with it, and I said, like, yeah, I can design something new, but actually the design that has the most brains and that needs the most processing power would be the spider dress. So what if I just made an albino version for you based on the Intel Edison? So they said yes. I also did another, like a few other projects with them. So I got really to be working at Intel as a blue badge and working with a team which became my team at RS5 in Portland. So I created there this version of the spider dress. Again, talking about updates and upgrades. This is the baby, how it looks like now. So this is one of the perspectives from the front when we were starting to build it. And this is the microcontroller. This is actually, it's a module. This is the heartbeat of the design. And here you can see some of the work in progress. So first of all, the structure is being built as it is sort of at the Gothic and architectural segmental time, sort of, in where things were very construction-based. Like you created your constructions in order to, in the time of the Gothic, in order to get light and to put windows in your structure, sort of. So this is also what the spider dress is based on, because I wanted to build something that could move and could live on your body in a very comfortable way, whilst it's still very, sort of masculine and armory. So here you can see that the design is built up from different layers, and also taking the twists and partially flexibility of the design in consideration when you walk with it and you move with it. So it became a really bulky but also very comfortable design. So here you can see me working in Matrix by Materialize. I print everything at my 3D printing partner Materialize in Belgium, because I also get access to their software and like their newest techniques, sort of. So I do not own a 3D printer myself. I would always go out and shoot it out to one of the partners that I work with. Here you can see me like doing some tests with the shoulder piece of it, and here again these circles and a little movie. So as you walk into the personal space of this design, it's really attacking you. So the legs on the shoulder blades, sort of, they are really grabbing out, in order to go after you. And I didn't program it in just one state, so it's just not really one-time attacking. But depending on how you walk up to it and where you're standing in space, it's reacting in something that I call 12 states of behavior. So when you walk up to it very slowly, it's moving in a different way than when you walk up very fast, because it's really grabbing out towards you. So that is really interesting of thinking in a way that something like the smoke is maybe one state and works in fluctuations. The spider dress really has a behavior, really has an attitude. It's a programmed attitude, but still it's making a decision. It's making a decision based on the proximity sensors that I built into the design. And thus my idea is that this device that we use, I use fashion as an interface, and then this interface becomes a tool. Like you are in control, but you're also in co-control, and the system is also in co-control of you. And that is something that is really interesting when you think of fashion, and if you think of these systems that we're going to place on your body, like where's that level of co-control that you want from it. This is at CES, we presented it there. And here you can also see in the next one the sensor in the little balls. So the two sensors are in the little balls that you see under her chin. We also designed some spider bots for the Maker Faire, because that's my next, and also my last topic is not only doing things for like the level of high couture and design, but also to integrate another group, which is children. So we created basically this dress for just to show off a sort of haute couture look, and then we also designed spiders that were following the dress, and these spiders also went and they traveled to Maker Fairs. So they are dancing spiders, and they were like normally presented with a dress, and as the children walked up to them, sort of they started to move and wiggle, and like we could explain them what you could do with robotics and what you could do with this notion sort of in order to be educative and also like show them sort of the enjoyment of working with electronics. The other thing that I want to say about children, because that's what I wanted to close down with. I started with Audi, which is really fashion. It's haute couture, it's unreachable sort of, and that is something that you can make, and that's good. But what I really like is that you just have the whole preservation, like that my designs, that my grandmother would like them, but also the children that I interact with, for example. So one really cool thing that happened was that the spider dress became very iconic last year. And then I got a lot of fan mail from the spider dress, people who were making pictures. But I think in the digital age, the next thing is really, really cool what happens. Like people are sending me sort of drawings and pictures of the spider dress, also little children. But these children actually took the time to rebuild the spider dress, and not from 3D printing, not from anything handleable, but from Lego, which is a pretty hard medium to create such complex structures, sort of. So this is one of the girls, I think in Vienna, that worked with a group that was recreating the spider dress. And as you can see, the balls that has the sensors, she really put it under her chin. They had the claws on the shoulders and all of that stuff. So through that, I got in contact with Lego myself as well. And I tried to explore with children, to make something with children that they could educate with. So this is Mindstorms. So it's the educational tool for children. It's the technical Lego, sort of. And we made these wings in collaboration with Lego and a bunch of children there.
Share with you now. These mechatronic wings won't help you take flight, but they will make you look super awesome. They're made out of Lego, and they've got infrared and ultrasonic sensors that are programmed to react to objects that come near them. The sensors work kind of like bats, bouncing high frequencies to detect objects up to 2.5 meters away. I kind of want these things. And the good news is you can make your own. They're the work of fashion tech pioneer Anouk Wipprecht, and she's recently posted a step-by-step guide on how to build them. So just head on over to our Twitter feed and you can have your own mechatronic wing.
They're always a big fan of the work, so they like to cover a lot. But again, like not only doing the high couture stuff, but also not making it accessible, sort of. Most of my projects I put on a website called Instructables, in where people can just rebuild it, sort of. I need to do it more, but it's always like, my spare time that I do these things. So I promise myself again to do it next week, another one. But to also outsource your ideas, and not because like the open source community, a lot of people are asking like, why do you do those things? Like you don't get money and da-da-da-da. But it's about learning, it's about education, it's about sharing what you can and what you know, sort of, and sharing it with others. For example, this is the websites like that I put things on. Like if I have 3D designs, I would put it on a website called Digifest, in where I just upload it, and other people would be able to download it and use it, sort of. You have other things like putting your codes online and all that stuff, you know. And I think that is just one of the most important things is to share with others. And by that, I want to close down with something Dutch, because of course I am Dutch, and we do bike a lot. So in the Netherlands, you ride your bike, even to the Fashion Week, for example. In America, people have their fancy cars and they drive to the Fashion Week. In the Amsterdam Fashion Week, everybody drives on their cool bike, sort of, you know, and they just come on their bike to the Fashion Week, and it's super cool. So I want to close down with a statement from that coined at the open source community, coined at the children, and we being educators, sort of. In the Netherlands, we say that you learn to bike yourself, and then you learn to bike somebody else. So I hope that we all do that. Thank you.